What's up, everybody? It's Wyvern here. I'm coming to you today with some more Pokemon Go PvP regional strategy. Today we're taking a look at if two power-up punch Pokemon on the same team is viable or not. Going to be taking an extensive look at Lucario for the most part. Medicham will be thrown into the mix, but let's dive into the matches and see how it goes. So I'm going to be leading with Lucario all three of these matchups. Medicham is going to be on the team as well, and the third Pokemon is just going to be a random pick. Kind of picked to balance the team. For this time, I went with a Lantern, just because it counters that Azumarill. So here we're going to see us charge up some energy, get up to that power-up punch, and then switch out for that Lantern. It's able to take out Altaria as well. We're going to shield here, just because both of our other Pokemon are very poor matchups against Altaria. We do have that Shadow Ball on Lucario, which would do a number, but I am not by any means wanting to do that. He subs in the Toxicroak, decides not to shield. I think he's expecting a Water move, but Thunderbolt ends up doing a number to Toxicroak, so we're going to have to shield his Dynamic Punch. Normally, oh, he doesn't throw it. I thought he got up to his Dynamic Punch. So we're able to hit it with the Thunderbolt, and he is going to not shield that one since it's almost dead. Yeah, Andrew's Toxicroak is Dynamic Punch since he wasn't able to get a TM in time for practice. Here we have a pretty poor matchup against the Whiscash, so we're just going to let this Mud Bomb through. And we're able to get off a Thunderbolt before we die. It's not going to do that much damage, but it's better than nothing, and we're able to get a decent chunk in. Now here, I should have thrown in the Lucario, since we already have that Power-Up Punch charged up, but we decide to come in with the Medicham. I think at the time, my reasoning was, once I drop this Whiscash, he's going to come back in with that Altaria, and Ice Punch is going to be a much better matchup for it, so I think that's why I threw Medicham in here. But we're going to let that Water Pulse get through. It doesn't deal that much damage to us. And here's another questionable decision on my part. I was thinking Whiscash was primary ground type, so Ice Punch would do good damage to it, but it neutralizes out with Water, so I should have gone with Power Up Punch there. It's one counter less to get up to, and we would have been able to raise our attack whether or not he shielded, and we would have gotten that same type attack bonus. So here I do opt for the Power Up Punch. We are going to raise our attack, like I said, regardless of if he shields or not, which he does. But nonetheless, we are able to get him to sub out the Whiscash, bring in the Altaria, and he's out of shields, so this powered up Ice Punch is definitely going to do a number to it. Then he throws out the Whiscash, but it's next to dead, so we already know we're going to take this match, even with this charge move coming our way. Just a Mud Bomb, so that is going to be a good game. Alright, so round two, like I said, we're going to be coming in with that Lucario again. I forget what his lead is for this match. It's going to be a Gyarados. I know this isn't a favorable matchup, but instead of switching into Lantern, I'm kind of curious to see how Lucario is able to do against it. So we go for that Power-Up Punch. I know being Flying type, it's not going to do that much to Gyarados, but my goal here was just to raise my attack and kind of chip away at his health as much as I could. So now our counters are going to be doing a bit more damage. We are going to have to shield his Crunch, just because I have that Power-Up Punch charged up, and I'm either going to feint the Gyarados or get a shield out of him. So here we see we're going to be able to get that shield out of him, like I said, so I essentially traded my shield for his shield in that scenario, and I was able to get one more counter on that Gyarados before we got knocked out. So here I'm coming in with the Tropius, just to get that last one on the Gyarados, finish off that bit of health. He's going to come in with a Banette, and you'll see how much damage Razor Leaf is doing to that Banette. This is one of his off-meta Pokemon he was kind of exploring. Ended up not using it. I think he was looking at it for Twilight Cup, but still had it, so I think decided to try and throw me for a loop here. Being off-meta, I didn't know what to expect, so we let the Shadow Ball through, and it does pretty good damage on the Tropius. We're going to be using that Aerial Ace, just because a single fast move from anything would likely knock us out. And there goes the Tropius, but we are in a favorable matchup with Medicham versus Umbreon here. Despite it being tanky and having those dark moves, we have one shield left, and we're able to get that Power-Up Punch off first. And look how little damage this does. That is how tanky Umbreon is. So I still stand by him being a good pick for Nightmare Cup. If you're able to get one with Last Resort, I unfortunately was not, but that's irrelevant in this matchup. You'll see us drop that last Power-Up Punch and easily finish off that Umbreon. So even with the unfavorable matchup with Gyarados at the start, we still end up taking this match. This is going to be the last match of the video. Like I said, leading with Lucario one last time. I considered leading with Medicham, but since Lucario is the main Pokemon in question here, we'll kind of stick with him. He leads with Flygon, which is an interesting matchup here. We're doing pretty good damage with him with counter to start. Now, I'm not sure why he didn't keep that in, seeing as we are Steel type, so his ground could have done some damage to us. He throws in the Umbreon here, which is also a questionable switch, but when you see what his third Pokemon is, Umbreon was ultimately the better option, although Flygon would have been the best option against us. But we're able to hit that power-up punch and almost knock out the Umbreon. It gets off his charge move first, but it's toast at this point. Lucario, though, has taken some good damage at this point, but with that powered-up counter, we're able to knock out the 4 times weak Alolan Sandslash. So that is why he didn't sub that in over Umbreon. There I got a little bit greedy. Should have used the power-up punch, but was going for that Shadow Ball instead. Ultimately cost us. But nonetheless, we're going to come in with Tropius to finish off this Flygon. Being part ground-type, Razor Leaf does pretty decent damage to it. Both of us have 1 shield at the time, so we're going to burn our last shield here. Just make sure that Tropius stays alive for an easy victory. Didn't even have to use Medicham this matchup and still managed to pull away the dub. So after looking at those matches, viable and suggested are 2 different words. While they are indeed viable, Lucario is a very powerful Pokemon and a good substitute if you don't have Medicham. I might not consider running both of them in the same match. You can maybe bring both on your team just to try and throw your opponent for a loop. Maybe you can run both in the same match. Personally, I almost did it, but went with Latios instead, which ended up being a much better alternative. But on your team, since you only have 6, you can only bring 3. You want that variety, and I'll know that Shadow Ball on Lucario is nice, and having 2 Pokemon with Power-Up Punch to try and sweep your opponent is nice. If you're going up against 2 Pokemon that are able to counter Power-Up Punch Pokemon such as Sableye, Azumarill, and Skarmory, like if you're going up against that as a team of 3, you're just straight up not going to win. So while both of them are good Pokemon and you might want to run one or the other one on your team, after looking at this footage, I would not suggest running both of them at the same time. With that being said, guys, I'm Wyvern. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and I will see y'all in the next video.